In March of 1984, Britain's coal miners began a national strike to protest privatization, mass pit closures, and job losses. Though, as the strike wore on, the miners and their families began to struggle financially. With no union funding or welfare payments, mining communities were forced to rely on fundraising, sending out representatives to find groups who would be willing to donate or raise money on their behalf. One such group was LGSM, Lesbians and Gays Support the Miners. 30 years later, in 2014, LGSM's story was adapted into the feature film Pride. Though, does it hold up to the group's legacy? Despite a few embellishments, the film does a reasonably good job explaining the history of LGSM and the important role they played during the miners' strike, including details like the origin of LGSM, which began during the 1984 London Pride March, when Mark Ashton, a gay rights activist and Communist Party member, convinced several of his friends to take up a collection for the striking miners. The film's cast, which for the most part are based on real people, including Mark Ashton, Mike Jackson, Jonathan Blake, Gethin Roberts, Stephanie Chambers, Di Donovan, Sean James, and Afina Heaton. Though the film does alter certain details of their lives to better fit the narrative, something which I plan to talk more about in the next section. Steph's warning to Joe that sexual relations between gay men under the age of 21 are illegal, a standard that was set in place by the 1967 Sexual Offenses Act, which decriminalized homosexual acts between men 21 and over, provided that they occurred in private. Unfortunately, the act also imposed harsher punishments for acts of gross indecency, a vaguely defined term which essentially gave police legal precedent to harass and arrest gay couples whose behavior they found offensive. Gay's the Word, England's first gay bookstore, which served as LGSM's base of operations. Though the group's first official meeting was actually held at Ashton's apartment on July 15th. The meeting between LGSM and Di Donovan, a fundraising representative from South Wales, who invites the group to his hometown of Onshwin to thank them for their support. LGSM's visit to Onshwin, where, despite fears of discrimination and homophobia, the group was able to gain the miners' respect and form a mutual understanding based on their similar beliefs and shared hatred of the government. The devastating impact of the AIDS pandemic on England's gay community, and the fact that Jonathan Blake, a member of LGSM, was one of the first men in England to be diagnosed with the disease. Several of LGSM's members leaving the group to form a women's-only organization called Lesbians Against Pit Closures, which, despite the split, was able to maintain a friendly relationship with their progenitor organization, the minibus that LGSM donated to the miners, which featured the group's logo on the driver's side door. Though the logo did cause a bit of a stir among some of the community's more conservative members, others believed that it helped spread awareness about the gay community and the meaning of the pink triangle, which many people were unaware of before the strike. It was also non-common for women who drove the bus to claim that they were lesbians in order to combat rude remarks about the logo, a detail which I'm very happy made its way into the film.
Lesbian, are you, love?
That's right. We're just off to Swansea now for a massive layers off.
The Pits and Perverts benefit concert, and Di Donovan's speech where he thanks the gay community for their support, though the content of his speech was altered slightly for the film.
Well, I tell you now, you've won our badge, call not dole, and when the time comes, you have my word on this, we will wear yours.
The end of the miners' strike on March 3rd, 1985, which forced thousands of defeated miners to return to work and ushered in an era of devastating losses for Britain's trade union movements. Though, thankfully, this loss did not dampen the miners' support for LGSM or the LGBTQ community. As a few months later, hundreds of miners descended on London Pride, forcing the event's organizers to allow LGSM to lead the march. Before moving on, I just wanted to acknowledge a few small background details that really emphasize how much attention to detail went into making this film. The picture that Mark uses to illustrate the brutal treatment of miners by police was taken during the Battle of Orgrave, a violent clash between striking miners and police at the Orgrave coking plant. While photos like this one were instrumental in demonstrating the cruel and unlawful behavior of police during the strike, there is yet to be an official inquiry into the events at Orgrave, despite pressure from mining communities who want to understand the reason for the assault and the government's possible involvement. Every Woman is a Lesbian at Heart is an actual song that was apparently very popular among the members of LAPC, though I was unable to track down the lyrics. The costume that Ben Snetzer wears during the benefit concert is an almost exact replica of what Mark Ashton actually wore during the event, which can be seen in LGSM's short self-produced documentary, Dancing into Lies, which is available to watch on YouTube or on the LGSM website. Yes, they have a website. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to... While most of the film's cast are based on real people, the filmmakers also decided to add a few characters of their own, like Joe Cooper and Maureen Barry. While Joe's story is integral to helping audiences understand the difficulties faced by closeted gay men, especially those living during the AIDS pandemic, Maureen's main purpose is to incite conflict, as she releases a story about LGSM to the press, embarrassing the miners and compelling the union to hold a vote as to whether or not they should accept the group's help. All things that never actually happened. Cliff's portrayal was also altered slightly for the film. While I'm fairly certain that he is based on a man named Cliff Grist, being that they're both retired coal miners who spent most of their life in the closet, Film Cliff plays a much more prominent role in the story, helping out with the miner support group, going to the picket line, and even arguing on LGSM's behalf during a meeting with the miners union. Though the two men are alike in that meeting LGSM gave them both the courage to be more open about their sexuality, which is something that I'm really glad the film included. Gay's the Word was actually founded in 1979 by a socialist group called the Gay Icebreakers, who are replaced in the film by LGSM members Gethin Roberts and Jonathan Blake. It's also worth noting that during the miners' strike, Gay's the Word was locked in a legal battle with the Customs Department, who, under the guise of the Customs Consolidation Act, confiscated a large portion of the shop's inventory and charged the directors with conspiracy to import indecent and obscene material. While the raid and impending court case was a devastating blow to London's gay community, as it threatened to shut down one of the city's only sources of LGBTQ+ reading material, when the case finally reached court in June of 1985, it became clear that the opposition did not have a very solid argument. The officers who performed the raid admitted that they had no legal understanding of what qualified as indecent material, and that most were unfamiliar with the contents of the books they confiscated. Though, to be fair, I find that people who ban books generally are not very big readers. But despite the obvious ineptitude of the Customs Department, the case against Gay's the Word wasn't dropped until June 27, 1986, which the staff celebrated by displaying the confiscated books in the shop's front window. While LGSM's first fundraising campaign at London Pride was a definite success, afterwards the group realized that they had no idea where to send the money. Luckily, one of the group's members had a contact in the live support group, a man named Hywel Francis, who agreed to set up a meeting between LGSM and Di Donovan. One day, Hywel said to me, "When you're next to London, there's this check to be picked up from this group of gay people." But I didn't think anything much about it. I just said I'd pick up the check because there's no difference, in my mind, between them and any other group that supported us. In the film, however, not only is Francis cut out of the story entirely, but due to a bad phone connection, Donovan attends the meeting completely unaware that LGSM's members are gay. Though this change did lead to one of the funniest moments in the film.
So, LGSM. What does that stand for then?
LGSM's trip to Orangeman also unfolded a bit differently than it does in the film. While the film depicts the group arriving, getting the cold shoulder from the town's residents, and spending the night at Di Donovan's house because they had nowhere else to go, the group actually spent their first day in Wales on the road, as they got lost and didn't arrive in town until 1 o'clock in the morning. As everything was closed, and their host families were likely asleep, the 27 members of LGSM had no choice but to camp out in Di Donovan's living room, which to me brings to mind this clip from A Muppet Family Christmas.
"I'd like to welcome you all here. You are all here, aren't you?
I think
Oh, good, because I'm afraid we're running out of room. 2 of you will have to sleep hung on hangers on a hook on the wall."
What a fabulous idea!
Love hanger! Love hanger! Ha!
Kinda random, but I couldn't think of a joke, so Muppets. Many members of LGSM also spoke favorably about their visit to Orangeman, as despite their initial misgivings, the citizens were incredibly kind. They were welcomed with such warmth and such generosity, really welcomed, and from there it was bingo and dancing all the way. In the film, however, the townspeople are initially very cold towards the members of LGSM, and only start warming to them after they help facilitate the release of some illegally detained minors, which never actually happened. While it's true that not everyone welcomed the group's visit, and that some of the townspeople definitely had homophobic views, the minors and their families were generally thankful for LGSM's support, and likely didn't want to risk losing it. While LGSM disbanded not long after the strike ended in 1985, when the film came out in 2014, the organization actually ended up making a resurgence. Though rather than fundraising, the group now focuses mainly on preserving their own history. If this video has piqued your interest and you want to find out more about LGSM, then I would definitely suggest checking out their website or reading the movie's companion book. As always, I'm Silver Jade, wishing you a very happy Pride, and I hope to see you all next time.